Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to this webinar. I'm Tony Schönenberger. I'm the Executive Chairman of STARS. And as many of you know, STARS is a global platform for a dialogue to discuss developments which will impact the society as a whole, but also our businesses in the next couple of years. No doubt, geopolitical and geoeconomic intelligence is a must for any business leader. So today we are continuing the webinar series on India. As we all know, India is a rising power, possibly the third largest economy before the year 2030. But will India's complexity and internal divisions slow it down, as was the case in the past? We want to deepen our understanding of India. Today, we have the great privilege to talk to KV Rao. KV, welcome. Good to have you on this webinar. KV Rao is a senior business leader in Singapore. He was the former resident director of Tata Sons in Singapore. KV worked in over 40 countries with a focus on Asia. He currently serves as chairman and director of leading companies in Singapore, and he is the chairman and director of Tata International in Singapore. So KV, again, thank you very much for joining. We are very much looking forward to your insights. We have now 30 minutes to discuss with KV. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature below and type in your question. And please do it as quickly as possible because we are running out of time very, very quickly. So I have the privilege now to ask a few questions first. KV, may I invite you to give some general information on Tata?
Good afternoon from Singapore and good morning to Europe, and a few hours behind is India. Lovely to talk to you all, and I'm always proud of talking about Tatas, having spent my last 2 decades with the group, that I'm extremely proud to carry what I call the Tata Blue. I'd like to share a little bit about Tatas, which we all know of. It is 157 years old. It has reset itself many a time. And more recent times, it's transformed itself into a significant corporation globally with interests all around the world. It operates with its presence in more than 300 locations, about 80 nationalities, 1 million people, about 156 or $7 billion of turnover, with 350 billion of valuation, and name it, we are in so many businesses. But the transformation has led the group to look at new technologies, the next 20 years, next 30 years, and the next 50 years in terms of how India will grow. And we are an India-centered global organization and a global group. In different verticals, we have about 8 verticals in Tata Group. And the most important thing and the most humbling factor is the values by which the group works anywhere in the world. And it's always purpose before profit. And I feel extremely proud to talk about Tatas. And Tatas, just as India is at an inflection point, if I may kick off the discussion with that, the Prime Minister of India calls it Amrit Kal. And it's translated as nectarian moment. It's a moment when you can have honey, you know. That's what is Amrit all about, a sweet time. Why is it such a sweet spot that India is in? I will give an example by using the phraseology of computer systems that India has known, IT systems. Firstly, India has gone through a massive reset in many areas. First is, I would call it the operating system has undergone a major change, which means the operating environment of India has undergone a fundamental change. About 550 or 60 laws have been repealed, whether it's Insolvency Act, it was Investment Act, it was financial, or it is industrial. The entire architecture of the governance in India has been reset. And that is something which is permanent. I call it the operating system, like in a computer. When the operating system is upgraded, you're looking at the future, you're looking at new features, you're looking at new stuff. That's exactly what India has taken to. The second is, I would say, the software on which India runs, which is the digital backbone today. The number of people who have mobile phones, Aadhaar cards, direct credit system. The whole thing has got so digitalized that a guy on the street uses digital payment systems. It is a massive transformation, which means there is a new software that runs the country. The third, I will call it a hardware. And when I mean hardware, is the infrastructure. The billions of dollars that have got poured into roads, railways, MRT systems, airports, urban infrastructure, rural infrastructure, electrification, renewables. You mention any large infrastructure play, it has been a major transformation. So I just repeat now, operating system, the software reset, the hardware upgrade. Now I'll talk about two sensitive aspects, which are very important. I call India has figured out the right hardware. What I mean by the heart is this particular government knows what the people need, and the people relate with a new sense of pride, with a new sense of well-being. For any country to be a superpower, to go there and be what it is actually the people who make the drive happen. So the hearts of the people, if I may, are ablaze. There is a new entrepreneurship, innovation, young people, all of that, and the manner in which the leaders communicate today, the hardware is absolutely right. And the last but not the least, I think finally, as India has learned how to speak to the world, that's, I will call it the artware, ART. They are much better presented today, represented today. In a difficult world, India has earned its place, its position with pride. And I think Indians are extremely happy about the place they occupy. And that is the soft side of it. So all this put together, I think the time has come.
Great to hear that. Coming back to my original question, Tata, what are the main businesses today and in the future of Tata?
We have a couple of divisions. We call it verticals. So if I talk about only Tatas, I think I might have to do it all morning, afternoon, and evening because the stories are very large. So I'll give you a very high-level picture of it. We are fundamentally in materials like steel and chemicals and all of that. That is all the fundamental businesses which we continue to strengthen. We are one of the world's largest in automobiles, about $45–50 billion with Jaguar Land Rover, India, and all of it, which is now with electric vehicles and so on, it's become a very large business. Information technology, we're amongst the largest in the world. And the information cluster, we've got TCS, we've got Tata Communications, we have several other companies in it, which is making the digital transformation. And we also have perhaps the world's largest infrastructure of carrying undersea cables, which is basically the roadways to take internet move from one place to the other. We are in consumer products in India, very large consumer footprints in there. We have something we call it now as the cluster, which is tourism, where hotels, we have five-star hotels to normal hotels to airlines, which is Air India, Vistara, all of it being consolidated today to be a significant player in airlines. And similarly, we have 8 divisions, and we are into defense and aerospace, which are new ones. The group has gone into semiconductors in a big way, electronics in another way, because it's capitalizing on Make in India. It's capitalizing being a reliable source of supply to global leaders beyond their existing sources of supply that have established for a very long time. The supply chains are getting disrupted. So everything is playing to the strength of India and to the strength of Tatas, who are very well entrenched, and I think that is being capitalized. That's the future and is extremely exciting and bright, and that brings the change.
I mentioned to the audience that you are right now the chairman and director of Tata International, based in Singapore. Can you elaborate on your present function right now?
Well, I sit on a number of Tata boards still. I used to look after the group here. Tata International is essentially a trading organization. And we have business interests in all parts of the world and in Africa and so on. And Tata International runs its headquarter function from Singapore for its international operations.
Okay, great. You mentioned now all the great future of India. On the other hand, what is the possibly the challenges? I mean, we always hear that India is in inverted comma, a compelling destination. So what are the challenges actually, domestically speaking, regarding India?
Interesting question. India was complex historically. It is complex today and will remain to be complex, gentlemen. India is not easy to figure out, just as Indians are very complex too. That's the culture, that's our DNA, that's the way we were raised, that's the way our forefathers grew. And it's historically a very old country and a old nation. India was 500 kingdoms at one time. It's one country. Today we have nearly about 28 or 27 states, a number of languages, cultures, subcultures, food cultures, talk about the syntax, the weathers, the agricultural production in different parts of the world. It is almost a subcontinent of India, which has huge amount of diversity. But there is a certain unity in that diversity, which is very unique of India. I always call India as a very unique country and not something which you can very quickly decipher. You've got to invest time and effort in understanding India and the Indian way of thinking, without which you don't go into that country and say everything is ready, because there is a huge amount of a learning curve and most people don't invest that time and effort. I often say India is a paradox of its kind. It has got the best, it's got the worst. It's the most educated and bright. It also has people who are not so. So it has a diversity which is unbelievable. It is a pure democracy of a high decibel level. The amount of noise that you will see in India in a democratic country is incomparable. But yet, at the end of the day, behind the sound and fury and the noise, there is a meaning that is there that's driving, which is freedom of the people, their ability to assert, and the entire system plays on that and capitalizes on it. And that is my submission, that India will remain complex. But today, despite different parties and different states, the regulations at a national level and all India have changed a lot. I talked about the digital frameworks. It's one country, but with different shades and cultures of where you operate and how you operate. But I don't see this as a challenge, but I see this an adventure of sorts. If you go to India, be ready for that adventure, be ready for that ride, which will give you lots of variety.
There is a question from Jeremy Bentham regarding Tata, the company. How significant has the passing of Ratan Tata been to the company and the country?
Well, I think I was very privileged to have worked during his chairmanship. Remarkable individual who's not just a business leader, he's a wonderful and great, compassionate human being. And he was someone where the whole world grieved when he left, by people who never met him, and just the kind of love he earned from not just our employees and Tata families, but everybody else. So there is surely a feeling of his having left this world, but he lived a great life and has left behind a wonderful institution that is run extremely well and very well-oiled machinery with the right values which have been strengthened, the right structures in place. So all is well, and I'm sure he'll be smiling back at how Tata is currently organized itself and how it is growing. And we have a Tata in the family, but mind you, for all those who do not know what Tata is, we are not a family-run company. It is incidental that you have a Mr. Tata, and there continues to be a Mr. Tata as the chairman now took over at the level of the trust, the Tata Trust, which are actually 66-67% holding the entire, Tata Sons holdings. So it's indirectly held by community organizations and trusts, so that what goes into the kitty is spent for good purpose to make a difference to the community. So all is well. Yes, we do miss him and his presence, but he's led a good life. He's left behind a fantastic legacy and a very good set of people to lead the group today. So we all feel very proud about it.
Great. I mean, I had the privilege to meet Ratan Tata about 25 years ago in Switzerland. And I would fully subscribe what you just said. An outstanding personality, an outstanding business leader, global business leader. So I was very much impressed by what he said at that time. Now, there is another question regarding the compelling destination. Again, it's from Jeremy Bentham. He is asking, is Hindu nationalism and populism damaging the diversity of opportunity in India?
There are two, you see, when you look at India, there are different lenses you can use. There is a theory of 7 lenses to reality. I won't get into that. I will talk about one lens. You look at it from a journalistic lens. I think nowhere in the world you have a journalist or the whole tribe of journalism thrives on negative news, not positive. Very, very rarely they'll give you something positive. Yes, I must say that India is a secular nation, and the current political system and the current party has a leaning towards the majority, but I don't think they're anti-minority. There are certain incidents, and often what happens is people on the edge. As I said, it's a paradox. There are wonderful people today who live in India and they're completely cross-cultural, multi-ethnic, believe in all religions and completely secular. You will have a small set of people on the edge on both sides of various religions who are trying to foment trouble, but that's the real India. And I don't dismiss that there is a level of some discomfort in some areas, but if you look at the whole, it's not an issue that one should worry about. It'll settle down. And I think if you look at the youth of today in India, young people, and even the election results have shown that they don't care about religion and God. They care about what is in there for me. And they all go to school together, they go to colleges together, and some of the pushback is a central message that some of the parties who are working on the edge of this particularly religious kind of leaning have got it back, because young people are not into it. And I think the future is safe because it's about the young people in the next generation, and Indian young voters are one tribe. And what they're looking for is better life, better job, better opportunities, growth. And I want to go abroad. And everybody in India has got a passport today, by the way, who's educated.
Great. I think we have to turn now into another question. Is India the place to be for foreign business, for foreign investors? What are the opportunities and risks? You know, Kay, we often hear about the great opportunities, obviously, in India. But on the other hand, you know, we see that foreign investors find it, at least to a certain extent, pretty difficult to do business. And for instance, they go to Vietnam. So what is your insight on this question?
Good question. I have been to Vietnam countless times. It's been a country I've known intimately for about 35 years now. And so goes with all the nations in Southeast Asia, which were investment destinations, including China. Let me just phrase this. Once HBR wrote an article where they said, Incredible India was the tourist statement of the government of India. Around 2000 or so, they started, Incredible India, come and see what India is. Today, you should replace Incredible India, Inevitable India. You can't be out of it. Reason is, there is no other nation in the world which will have 6% upward sustainable growth. It may go to 8 in the next 10, 20, 30 years with, you know, the magic mix of young people, domestic demand, right macroeconomic indicators, the right microeconomic indicators, and a very progressive, positive government and policy towards, you know, foreign investment. But having said that, I think you need courage to go to India. As I said, it's a complex nation. You need to invest to know, and you need to have the right people, the right talent, and the right connections so that you're guided into that country, not into the pits that you could fall in, but onto a smoother way to success. And there is a lot of learning, and India is not going to be something so easy And it's incorrect to compare with a Vietnam or any other country, including China, because the whole measure was very different. At one time, an American economist said, I don't remember, but he did mention this very nicely. Perhaps the best place to invest is China, but if you want return on investment, you better go to India. So I think that is getting proven today. I'm not speaking for India in that sense, but China has had its own challenges, and investors are realizing today that you need a secondary destination of the same size, of the same scale, the same capability. There are limitations in places like Vietnam, both in terms of labor, cost, talent, availability, and a whole host of things. I think their ability to remain sustainable in comparative curves is less. India has a much larger curve to actually provide to foreign investors.
So we are talking about, about de-risking, about decoupling regarding China. Now the question obviously comes onto the table. Is India now the alternative to China regarding supply chains? How is the competition between India and Southeast Asia? How is your view on that question?
I think it's clear. The world is following China +1, China +2, China +3. But what the world misses is take China out. +1, +2, +3 make a very good alternative to the first one. So you need to map this across various industries. And frankly, Tony, if you run businesses, supply chains are not very flexible. You can't change it very quickly. It takes time. The whole process of migrating supply chains can take anywhere between 3 to 5 to 10 years because you're going to build a lot of stuff on the ground. Now, if you look at electronics, semiconductors, automotive, a lot of chain is shifting to India, and India is becoming a significant source today. Along with a couple of ASEAN countries, it could be India plus something, and it still could be China plus India. So I think the scope is very significant, but supply chains don't change overnight. Even if there is tariff world, it takes time to adjust to supply chains because factories don't come overnight, labor doesn't come overnight, machines don't come overnight, and the whole change will take about 5 years, is my sense, of Make in India and India becoming a big source of supply. It has already happened in electronics. The exports have been significant from India. The growth story is compelling. So I can go into data, but I think the time is right. And those who are not able to get in there, I think you're missing the bus, is my message. And I always use this term, if you want to come to India, be ready to ride the tiger, because it is actually a tiger. If you're not a brave heart, I would say you should think twice because it tends to be one. But what the power of a tiger is, nothing else offers you that.
Now we have another 5 minutes, maybe turning into, let's call it geopolitical questions. How do you see India's role in the emerging multipolar world?
There are three things. One is rhetoric and politics. The other is your economic strength and positioning. And three, how you balance in a very difficult world. Let me just stress on each one of each, a line on each. In terms of the political positioning and the rhetoric, I think India has never been better than the way it has been asserting itself in the last couple of years. Particularly if you see the foreign minister who was for quite a number of, almost 2 years, where he was working with the Tata. He has made India's position so clear, so rightfully heard and acknowledged by the world. So it has earned its place in terms of the political space. Economically, whether it is going to be Mr. Trump or whoever, I think India is very, very much in the right place to improve on trade. On immigration, let's say in the United States, there will be some issues, but I think educated talent will not have a problem. It's more to do with the labor. Energy and environment is a big space. India is leg up in it with the US. Defense will be a very, very significant areas of cooperation if you're looking at the US and India. And also pharmaceuticals and healthcare, where India has a very strong background, apart from information technology and digital. So I think the global space is open. And on an economic side, it is perfectly well positioned to grow. And the last but not the least is balancing. I think so far, India being friends with Russia India being friends with the United States is such a beautiful balance that still both consider India as friends. I think that's very unique. And I think they've negotiated that position well. It's a difficult, tenuous balance, but done well. We can talk about geopolitics of India being part of another bloc, which is a counterbalance. But I think one thing understood is India is for peace, India is not for war, India is for development, and India is for itself than anybody else. And I think with 1.4 billion, I think they have a right to say, we do what is best for our people. And that's the statement they've sent across the world. I think that's true of ASEAN, that's true of Singapore. They want to balance between, we are not China or America or Russia, but we are unipolar in many ways. We are equipolar, if I can use it.
How do you see the relationship with Europe? And I do not know whether you know there is a FTA, a free trade agreement with the EFTA, including Switzerland. How do you look at these developments?
They are positive, but in the order of significance in terms of India's external trade, the singular issue is China is a major exporter to India with a huge trade surplus. There's nothing like that comparable in the Europe or even the United States. I think it's about 85 to 90 billion dollars. Year after year with that kind of trade surplus, I think there is a thawing there. One new trend I will see, India's economic pragmatism of the last 10, 15 years, sooner or later, I would look forward to seeing some investments directly coming from China into India, because there is a lot that India needs to gain back in terms of investment and sizing. And the day when things will improve on that front, I think it's better for the world, it's better for India, it's better for China too.
Now we have two more questions. First question, as a business leader, KV, and a representative of one of the biggest companies in the world, how do you see the US elections or the Trump administration coming into office next January?
I would say it's very positive for India. Actually, India has taken a neutrality of a certain kind. I would say India has strengthened its position of neutrality and centrality. No country in the world can say, I'll ignore India. That's centrality. Neutrality is, I'm a friend of all, I'm enemy to none. That's also very well delivered. And with the US, whether it was Biden or Trump, I think the equation was good. And Trump has a personal equation with the prime minister. They seem to be very good friends. And as I just outlined, all the 5 areas I think India has to gain. One is trade policy. Immigration may be a little bit of an issue, but I think it's not a big challenge. Energy, environment, technology, defense, and healthcare and pharma. All of these sectors, I think India is poised to deepen the engagement and also gain from it.
Thank you. And obviously, the final question would be, where will India be in 2030 and in 2050?
I don't do stargazing, but India will be the 3rd largest economy in the world by 2030 for sure. Economic growth, digital economy, a better country, more digital decarbonization, and so on. But I think I won't be alive 2050, when India may become really a superpower. And superpower is not just about getting economic numbers right, but the influence and the character of India as something to look up to. And I think this has been stated by the government of India in many statements by the Prime Minister too. It has to be a flag bearer of ethics, compassion, peace, intelligence, and delivering the world from all its problems of poverty, of inequality, of environment challenge. So what I wish to say is India should become not just a superpower, but I would see India as becoming the most responsible person, most responsible citizen of the world, and do what is right. And that would be really being a superpower.
So thank you very much on this very optimistic outlook. We have to finish. Unfortunately, time is up. So first of all, KV, thank you very much for these brilliant insights. I think we all learned a lot about India, about the future, the developments of India. Thank you very much again, and I wish you all the best. And I do hope to have you again sooner or later at one of our stars event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Namaste, Indian way.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the final webinar in this India series will be on 24th of January with Professor Jivanta Shetli from Dublin City University, an India expert particularly on geopolitics. I hope to see you then. Goodbye for now and till soon. Thank you.
Thank you.